Yo, what is up everyone? Back here with another video. Today we are going to be going over the Xerneas team that I've been using on stream for the past couple days. So to answer the question that I posed in the title, is Xerneas still viable? I believe so, yes, but I think it requires a certain level of play to kind of achieve the heights that it can reach, basically. I think it requires a lot of positioning, and I think it requires a lot of game knowledge to do so. So I'm going to be going over the team that I've been utilizing on stream. If you guys would like to see more of this team being used and kind of see how I play in a certain different matchups and things, there are a ton of different VODs on my Twitch, and also too, I stream on Twitch consistently to where you guys will be able to catch me using this team or using other teams. So with that in mind, what I've wanted to start doing with these videos is playing these teams for a little bit before bringing them to YouTube, just because it lets me kind of contextualize the teams a bit more and explain them a little bit better to you. So I played this Xerneas team for the past, I believe, week and a half. So I have a lot of clarity in terms of how to play this team and kind of understanding how it functions as a whole. This is something that I've built myself, but sometimes it takes a while to kind of develop your own skills, I guess, to really match it. Technically, I should correct myself. I didn't build the six specifically, but the sets that I put on are something that differentiates the team from the version that Kunal used earlier on in the format, right? And I'm going to be going through all those different changes with you. If you guys are interested in the open paste of this team, it will be in the description. If you guys are interested in the rental code, Patreon subs will have access to all of that information, along with obviously the direct pace with all the EVs in there. But I do want to be breaking down the main parts of this team through with you guys and giving you guys access to the open pace, so you guys at least have kind of a skeleton of like what you can do with the team and kind of understanding the sets. So we'll be going through them one by one. First, we'll touch on Incineroar. So Incineroar utilizes obviously its most common stab move of Flare Blitz. That's pretty common on Incineroar. You usually don't want to really run anything else. I think the fire coverage is super important. Parting shot is very crucial on Incineroar because it's going to allow you to reposition. Now, this is really important on Xerneas teams specifically. Xerneas teams really rely on you positioning the Xerneas correctly, and there are going to be a lot of situations where you're going to want to pivot either into something that can redirect away from Xerneas, into another fake out, maybe even pivot into Xerneas itself. So honestly, any kind of repositioning moves are going to be very crucial in teams like these. The last move on Incineroar, besides Fake Out, I feel like Fake Out's a guarantee, is actually Roar. So Roar is really useful because, especially with safety goggles, it helps you beat opposing Amoonguss in Xerneas. You can roar through the Amoonguss and actually phase out the opposing Xerneas. Roar also allows you to have some cool plays. So, for example, let's say you're in Trick Room versus a Sakataka. You know Gyro Ball is going into your Xerneas, but you also want to get in your Rillaboom safely without it taking damage, so you can Fake Out, or your Urshifu in safely. You can protect Xerneas, take the Gyro Ball, obviously, because there's no damage coming out. Side Roar yourself, get something else in. So just a very nice option there. And just a very, like, cool, I think it's just a cool move overall. It allows you to phase, it allows you to stop Trick Room, and there's, like, a bunch of cool switch plays you can do with it. So it's just really, really nice. Also, too, it lets you break Shadow Tag, which is super helpful as well. So going into Xerneas, I feel like Xerneas is like the most straightforward out of all of them. This Xerneas does have a little bit of bulk invested. As I mentioned, you guys can see that if you guys are on the Patreon. Pretty much its ability to kind of have that extra bulk and just like take hits really comfortably means it's going to be able to sit there and Geomancy in a lot of cases, right? Now, this doesn't mean that you can just recklessly Geomancy in front of everything, but it does mean that it has a little more bulk, so you can more kind of safely click it without being a threat of getting KO'd from pretty much anything, right? Xerneas already has pretty good natural bulk, but if you invest in it properly, it can actually do a pretty good job as long as you have enough invested in its offense and speed as well. Now, so pretty much where you want to go with Xerneas is always having Geomancy, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, and Protect. There's very little reason to run another move, honestly. I know Substitute Xerneas is something that has been around before, but I really just think Dazzling Gleam is better, and having the spread of moves is important. Power Herb, obviously self-explanatory. You need to boost yourself with Geomancy in one turn, so that's just very important. Also, I'm going to make this change mid-recording, so don't get freaked out. I'm lowering my brightness a little bit, just because like I didn't like how it looked. I wanted a deeper blue, more like, you know, passionate. I just realized too, you know, my light hasn't been on this whole time. Oh shoot, it's not even turning on. All right, I don't know what's going on there. I'll have to fix that light later. But yeah, pretty much The nice thing about Xerneas obviously is they can put on a bunch of pressure, especially once it's set up. And a lot of these mons are offensive, so pretty much when you pair them next to Xerneas, you're going to be putting down a lot of damage. Urshifu Water is a very solid option as well. It gives you the water coverage to really deal with fire types that typically wall out Xerneas, specifically Entei and Volcarona. And then you have fighting type moves to deal with the steals that typically give Xerneas trouble as well, right? So it kind of gives you a lot of good options there. Also, Urshifu is just a really good mon in general. Can deal with stuff like Incineroar, which is really common, and can just deal a bunch of damage, especially if you get your opponents in pins with Fake Out. And double Fake Out plus like Urshifu Surging Strikes is really threatening because you can consistently just cycle like Fake Outs and then just go for Surging Strikes, right? And there's like very little your opponents can kind of do to deal with that. So it's just a really nice option. Mystic Water, obviously, too, is going to be giving you a lot of extra power on your Surging Strikes. So you're going to be doing that really extra damage that's going to set it apart, maybe allow it to get some KOs that wouldn't normally be able to pick up. Going on to the next mon, Rillaboom. So Rillaboom is honestly one of the mons that are running like more of the interesting moves, is one of the tech moves where I think that it kind of makes a difference. I mean, Roar was an example as well, right? It was one of the moves that made a difference. But Rillaboom is going to be running Drum Beating. So Drum Beating is actually a move that reduces speed. It's Rillaboom's signature move, actually. I don't think any other mon gets it, unless I'm mistaken. And it has a little bit more power than Grassy Glide. So why is this useful? It allows you to get around Serena, Kyogre stuff. So basically you can still hit the Kyogre. You know, Serena's not blocking you. Also, reducing speed is really important, especially with Xerneas, because it could enable Xerneas to Geomancy before a threat like Calyrex. So you can go for Drum Beating, slow down the Calyrex, then go for Geomancy before the Calyrex gets attack, and a lot of stuff like that, right? So that's just a really nice option. Also, too, you get the access to U-turn, which allows you to reposition. As I mentioned, cycling fake outs is really important. Cycling into the mons you want is really important. So kind of having that option is going to be very crucial with Rillaboom. Grassy Glide, obviously very standard stab move. If I don't think I need to explain it, but like pretty much priority grass move is just kind of busted. And then as the last what's it called move slot, you're gonna be running fake out. Obviously, you want to disrupt your opponents, keep them from doing what they want to do. So yeah, and then going to Regieleki, I think Regieleki has one of the more interesting and like impactful techs on the team, right? Because Electro Web and Volt Switch and Protect aren't anything to scoff at. That's typically the thing that you're running, but on this Regieleki, we actually opted to run Rain Dance instead of running Thunderbolt. Now, at first glance, you may be like, well, that's kind of dumb, right? Because you kind of want the single target power without having the like Volt Switch out. But my counterpoint to that is that you really need to utilize Rain Dance to kind of beat Groudon, right? Because Groudon is really good at walling out these Xerneas teams. I mean, yes, you can boost up your Xerneas, but you have to remember there's a Cherim, there's like other things, Entei, and how do you really stop those things? Specifically, Entei plus Groudon and Cherim is like really difficult. So having the option of going for a Rain Dance combined with the Urshifu is super threatening. You can one-shot opposing Groudon with a combination of Mystic Water, Surging Strikes, which is stab boosted, and Rain boosted, obviously. So that's really nice. And then you also get the option of going for stuff like Electro Web Surging, so there's just a ton of options there. And that actually goes into one of the common leads down there, which we'll be getting into. But last slot, Volcarona. Volcarona is pretty straightforward. Different from Kunal's Volcarona, mine is a little bit more optimized for HP recovery. Obviously, not giving the full details on the EVs, but basically it's just a little more optimized than Kunal's was in terms of the actual EV yield and like what it's accomplishing, right? Um, for Citrus Berry, that just allows you to not get one shot by opposing Urshifu Surging Strikes. You have basically you're maximizing your chance for a burn, which is really helpful. Now, going over to common lead, so I talked a little bit about Regieleki Urshifu. This is pretty much what you want to do into most Groudon teams. You're able to go for like Rain Dance, kind of pressure the Surging Strikes off. It's really difficult for them to switch into unless they have Rillaboom. This lead is a little weak to Rillaboom lead, so you have to be a little bit careful there. But you can also kind of position around it, so it's kind of helpful. Also, Urshifu is enough bulk to like take a Rillaboom hit, so it's not too big of a deal. But yeah, besides that, like the option of Rain Dance plus like Surging, I think is just so powerful. And then having the speed control of Electro Web along with it too, just like gives it this extra weight that it didn't normally have. So it's just like super cool. Then if we go over to Xerneas Incineroar, I'd say this is your most flexible lead. This is probably the safest lead you can lead in a matchup where you don't know what you're doing. Mostly because you just have the option of Fake Out plus Geomancy. If not, you can always go for like Protect Parting. You can go for Protect Roar on yourself. Like there's just so many options here, and it's just incredibly helpful. It's particularly good into Xerneas Mirror majority of the time, mostly because it's safety goggles, right? So you can kind of sit in front of it. Also, my light just randomly decided to turn on. That's nice. So yeah, you have a ton of options there. Fire type obviously pressures anything like an Amoonguss, right, which can annoy Xerneas. And yeah, it's just great for getting like sometimes free damage off too, even with like a fake out Moonblast, right? So just a bunch of cool options there with the lead itself. It kind of offers a lot of variance, and it can also really force your opponent into positions where they kind of have to get your turn right. So it's just a very nice kind of pairing overall. I think they really complement each other well. Also, too, like their defensive synergy, if like one's in the back and one's not, is like pretty good because you can swap in Incineroar to take the steel moves that Xerneas doesn't like. Incineroar doesn't like fighting moves. You can swap in Xerneas to eat those, so on, right? So then we go to Xerneas Volcarona lead. So this one's a little bit more niche. I feel like this one you lead if only your opponent doesn't really have an answer to redirection. In majority of cases they will, obviously, because you know the format's I feel like pretty developed right now to not lose to Xerneas in redirection as long as like unless they play super good, right? So this is more so lead if like for some reason they don't have an answer to that. Also too, it could just be to pressure the Geomancy, force them to respect it early, and then potentially even swap out your Xerneas into Volcarona. Go for like some damage with Volcarona, or even go for some struggle bugs, and then parting shot back into Xerneas in a more favorable position. So you do get a lot of options with that lead, and it's just super nice for really just putting on some serious pressure, right? Because like they kind of have to respect the redirection option. Because Volcarona is running protect as well, you could even do some mind games. Maybe you think they're gonna double target the redirector because they have like some kind of guaranteed Oko move on it, and Xerneas gets a free Geomancy up and then runs through the game, right? So you have a ton of options there. That one's a little bit more, I'd say, up in the air depending. But yeah, guys, this will be going over this Xerneas team. I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about it to kind of bring up my thoughts on Xerneas after using it for a week and kind of my findings. My findings, I think, overall are kind of concluded within this. If you're a solid player and you are confident in your ability to position, Xerneas is worth using. Specifically, I think this version of the team is worth using. If you're a player who prefers to put on a little bit more offense and would like to focus a little bit less on your positioning game, which I still think is important to develop, but specifically for this format, you can pick to go more offensive or like a little more balanced or defensive. I would probably recommend a different restricted for you, right? This restricted is very focused around setting up, getting yourself in the proper position, and then running through the opponent as such, right? And it's not able to get going as quickly as some other restricted. So that's going to be my summary on Xerneas. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to let me know. Drop a like and a comment, and kind of, yeah, just my question of the day, or I guess what would be a good thing to know from you guys, would be what are your opinions on Xerneas, right? Do you think it's something that's a little bit more splashable that a lot of people can use, or is it a little bit more of a high skill mon? Also, too, make sure to check out the Patreon where you guys can get access to the rental code of this team and the specific paste that actually has all the EVs in it. And also make sure to support me through coaching if you're interested. I mean, coaching is also a way for you to improve your own skills. I also have some deals on there on my Twitter, which you guys can check out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for the support as always. Hopefully this video was helpful, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.